I've had the pleasure of partnering with someone in investing and buying a business for just over 3 months now. Our goal is to acquire business to supplant her W 2 income, to experience autonomy of her schedule, working for oneself, and the tax and financial benefits that successful business ownership brings. Through her efforts, she's managed to accumulate significant savings and will use it as the cash equity component. Just like a typical private equity financing structure, we're going to try and source lending from the SBA, a CDFI lender, and other potential co-investors. Personally, I'm planning on putting in some of my savings towards a minority equity stake to ensure alignment. She's a woman and a minority, so hopefully we'll qualify for subsidized financing programs. The cheaper the money we can raise, the better for prospective returns. 2 months ago, October 2025, we had the opportunity to look at a custom millwork fabricator. From a financial perspective, the first and foremost thing to look at, in my opinion, there was a meaningful merit. On a trailing 12-month period, earnings jumped significantly to over $500,000 in EBITDA. Assuming that would be correct in the expectation for how the business would typically perform, the asking price and the resulting multiple that we would have had to pay would have been very cheap compared to industry standards and ranges. Other merits include that it was an attractive industry for the client, in which she would be able to leverage her prior industry expertise with the required flexibility she needed to balance her jobs as the owner and a mother. We were also given a polished sim that included institutional quality diligence questions, such as revenue percentage breakdown by products and services, revenue percentage breakdown by customer, location and lease information, key vendors and terms, a list of the company's capital assets and estimated replacement costs, staff role lists and wage rates. And I think compared to what we've typically seen in small businesses and their disclosure, a pretty polished work product in terms of the explanation. All right, now let's get on to the key risks. The first is that there's only 3 to 4 weeks of training offered post-close, which is just not enough. Ideally, we'd like to see at least a year. And from the perspective of a first-time buyer, it's better to err on the side of caution and negotiate for redundancy. So we'd ideally like to even go further than that if possible. The analogy I'd use here is, if you started a new job, how long did it really take you to feel that you got the ropes and could handle everything? 3 to 4 weeks just isn't enough time. Or being the CEO of a business, which is what you're essentially buying here, is one of the hardest jobs to perform. The second key risk here is that the sim didn't really have explanations for what drove the significant performance increase over the trailing 12-month period as compared to 2024. So we needed the bridge here, which is the 9-month 2025 financials compared to 9-month 2024, as well as management commentary, the key thing here, as to why that happened, so we could get a sense ourselves as to if it's sustainable, if it's real. If when we buy this business, we can expect a similar level of performance ourselves. Nonetheless, I'd like to add that these risks don't necessitate a pass. With every investment opportunity, there will be merits and risks. No serious analyst will present a perfect investment. It's just a part of the underwriting process to respect that with every decision, there will be benefits and opportunity costs. What tends to happen is that risks get mitigated through negotiation, if more active, and information discovery, if more passive. Our solutions would be a clear application of this. For the training period, we'd go back and say, hey, we really need a longer training period to make this work for us. And hopefully the resulting change will tend to shake out somewhere in the middle, in which it will be some time frame in which both sides compromise. We obviously want more time to be trained, and we're happy with redundancy if necessary. The seller obviously doesn't want to commit to a longer time frame that in which they'd have to, be there and teach us. On the performance jump, we can ask what drove the increase in profits? Who was the client? What were the margins on these projects? How is it sourced? If the answer is satisfactory with this, then we can move ahead with next steps. Doing this is value additive since we are actively changing the terms of the deal in the former and getting more comfortable with the story that others may not have bothered to ask about in the latter. And if we create more conviction in the investment for the potential return, then we'd feel more comfortable than others that we're bidding against with progressing. And that becomes a competitive advantage. That's how deals get won, by moving quickly and developing conviction if it is worth it. On the first risk, the training period being offered only for 3 to 4 weeks, we found that the seller was amenable to a longer training period, but that they were planning to move to a different state, and thus the additional time past the 3 to 4 weeks would have had to have been virtual. We also found that the reason the seller was moving to a different state was to work for his friend's company that performed a later process within the supply chain of raw material sourcing to final good delivery, namely the finishing and installation of the millwork. We found that the middle ground on offer was unsatisfactory, as the seller wouldn't want to delay his move to start working for the other company. With the second risk, and I'll have to caveat by saying I've probably re-recorded this 100 times by now, actually, because I do want to choose my words carefully here. Namely, the 9 months of 2025 massively outperforming the entirety of 2024, let alone the first 9 months for comparability. And what really got us comfortable with the decision to pass was that upon asking the questions laid out earlier in the video regarding the reasons for the performance increase, we found out through prodding that the performance increase was driven by the seller's friend's company offering the seller's company a massive project in scale and profitability that was not able to be guaranteed to continue under our ownership. We asked for exclusivity contracts or sole supplier agreements or some form of way to guarantee that down the line, the company's financials that were reported could be expected to continue. We found that the project that drove that increase was also not like the typical engagements the company was marketed as. Namely, it was a residential project and 70% of the company's sales were commercial in nature, which also begs the question of if the CIM is even valid, because this massive residential project that was immensely profitable is supposed to be only 10% of the company's sales. We asked for ways to guarantee that in the future, if we were to own the company, that we could participate in such projects. But all we received was verbal confirmation that it could happen. And that's just not enough. The biggest thing is that this wasn't disclosed in the CIM. If someone hadn't asked this question, they would have not provided it. And that led us to really feel like the nature of the counterparty here was questionable. So it was a pretty easy pass from there on out. The strategy for that is to, not be vindictive. Just let them know that you're happy to have analyzed the opportunity and would love to hear more about others down the line. Wish them well in their sale process, though we just had discussions internally and are unable to be comfortable with the risks. And with that, I'll conclude with the same quote that was given at the beginning, which is to trust but verify. Don't be naturally pessimistic and assume that the system is out to get you and that there's no opportunity out there, because they do exist. It's just you do need to be level-headed to verify what is being given. If you have any questions, I'd love to have a chat with you and do my best to answer them. Feel free to use the contact form on my website, iloiadvisors.com. And it took me a lot of time. It took me more time than I'd like to admit to record this and edit it. So I'm a lot better in person and just having a regular conversation. So I really would hope to do that. And I'll try to make the production of these a little quicker, because it's hard. It's a lot harder talking to a camera than talking to a person, believe it or not. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy the holiday season. And I'd hope to have you reach out. Just want to hear more about your goals and if business acquisition is something you're interested in. I'm still right now looking for, initial pool of clients. So it's not like I'm going to be giving you an invoice after like the first call. Like I do want to also just let it be known that I want to help people. All right, that's it. Thanks.